Welcome back to the Budding Author Podcast with your host, Simon Ward. Welcome back. Today, we have a multi-genre indie author who loves teaching others about publishing and audience building. So, Kayla Hicks, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's great to have you. We'd love to hear some of your tips about publishing and audience building. But first of all, your writing. How did it all start for you?
So I always wanted to write a book. I was a kid that didn't have access to a lot of books, and once you read so many books, you kind of want to write one yourself.
Yeah.
And I started writing a young adult dystopian book, and it took me 4 years to write it. And I was so excited to get it published, and I wasn't really sure about the traditional route. And my husband actually found me self-publishing, and there was a service called Create Space, which is now owned by Amazon. And I paid them $3,000 to format it, edit it, do my cover, and then put it on the platform, which, was great for someone like me who knew nothing of what I was doing. However, that's not sustainable for how many books I wanted to publish down the road. So I actually met a lot of other indie authors through Twitter, which I guess is now known as X. And they taught me a lot of things about how you can pretty much publish for close to nothing, with really your only big expense being editing. If you can make your own cover, you can learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And once I was able to get that going, I kind of just took off, and now I have, I think, 13 books.
Oh, brilliant. I think from my point of view, the professional editing, that can be a very expensive option. Book covers, I put that out for through Fiverr.
Oh, yeah.
A lovely lady did some really good covers for me, so I'm sort of, and that was reasonable expense. I think when you're starting off, you don't want to be sort of putting too much money out there. Like $3,000 is sort of it's a big kick, and the profit loss situation is is tough, isn't it? Particularly starting out.
Yes. I mean, really, when I published my first book, I probably sold 200 copies, which is good, but I relied a lot on word of mouth. So like friends telling friends, and people buy my book because it was my first book, and then nothing happened. But it was also because I had no social media presence. I had no idea how to market a book. I literally jumped in knowing nothing, which is not what I would suggest anybody do. But then, once I started like following other authors on social media to kind of see what they would do. And I tried to follow ones that were similar to myself, so I could kind of see how they were trying to pull their audience in, or the things they were posting, because anything I threw out there, which I think I had made it a Facebook author page to start, I had no idea. I just put things on there, like little short stories I wrote, and I think I had maybe 20 followers. And it was such an uphill climb. But then once I started using social media, I saw things start to pick up. But it took me like, I would say 4 years or so to actually see some progress. It takes time and posting a lot.
Do you get a lot of sales through your following on Twitter, you think, or Twitter X?
I would say that is probably the place I get the most sales, but it's also my best performing platform because I have like 30,000 followers.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah. So, I mean, that really helps. And I mean, it's going to be different for everybody about how you gather your following on social media. I basically I didn't know what to post. So on Twitter, we'll say Twitter, for example, or X, I started posting questions to answers I wanted. Like, how do you pull your audience in? And then people would start answering. And that's kind of how I grew my following, because people would really look through the comments and find a lot of valuable information there. Yeah. So I would post like 4 times a day and get 100 to 500 comments on there. And it only went up from there because people wanted to see what other people had to say these questions, because apparently other people had these questions too.
They must have been very good questions, because I did something similar, and I got very little traction from it. Very little traction.
It's tough too, because the algorithm and everything and how social media works, it moves all these posts so fast. So you kind of need the right people to see it. And I found out that if I watched when my tweets or my posts performed well, like a time of the day, that was when I would post the most. And then when people would right, and then when people would comment, I would answer their comment, because that would also bring it back into the feed on social media, and that kind of helped a lot.
Yeah, that's good. I think I put a funny one, and whether this is a good question or not, I've done a little quiz, and it was on about popular phrases. Birds of a feather flock together, and but I thought it was birds of a feather stick together. So I'll put the question out there on Twitter. We'll call it Twitter, even though they call it X.
I know, whatever they are.
It's still Twitter, isn't it? I put out a poll on there, and I had no votes at all on the poll. No. So nobody even answered the question. That was so that was not one of my best. But since we've launched the channel, since I've launched the channel. But I have my numbers have been growing. I am getting more engagement from people.
That's great.
So it's starting to move in the right direction. Obviously, your 30,000 sort of has much bigger reach. I hadn't really thought about time of the day at all, and I think being UK, when I'm posting, that's sort of not really sort of peak time for America, perhaps, and America, of course, has got a lot of numbers associated with that. So that's somewhere where I'm going wrong. But what kind of questions were you sort of posting then?
So in the beginning, I would post things like, where are you finding affordable editing for your books, or how do you draw your audience in, or what are great ways to pull a reader in on the first page, things like that. And people would give me really lengthy answers or repost my posts. And like I said, it won't work for everybody, but it was just questions I had no idea, because like I said, I kind of jumped into the publishing thing without knowing anything. So I was like, well, might as well ask other people, because maybe they can give me the answer.
I think that's a good way. That's a good way of getting it through. Just skipping back a little bit, what did you do before you started writing? What was your job?
I was actually a preschool teacher for about 9-10 years, and I now actually stay-at-home mom, because my daughter is in like half-day kindergarten. So I write when she's at school, then I hang out with her when she gets home, and
that's nice. That's perfect life balance.
Yeah.
I think people sort of talk about that more in more recent years, about sort of the life balance and that sort of thing.
Right.
I know you've done quite a few children's books. I think with having a young child, your sort of mindset is sort of in tune with all of that, isn't it?
Yeah, and being a preschool teacher, one of the advantages I had was knowing what books were going to work with a classroom. So the 2 books that I have out, which are Dandelion and Today I'm Not Laurel, also have free learning activities to go with them. So I've made like lesson plans and coloring sheets and literacy activities, and I make it all free on a site called Teacher Pay Teacher, which parents and teachers can access. And they can print them out, and it goes along with the book.
Oh, got you. So that's a bit of a wider connection rather than just a book. It's a package. It's a package.
Yes.
And the free content around that package sort of makes perfect sense if it draws more sales in. Where's your sales from? Then we say Twitter was where you get most of your sales now, or?
Yeah, I would say it's probably where I get the most of my sales. And then, I mean, I feel like each social media platform gives me something different. Like I've connected with more teachers in my area on Facebook, and that's where I got like a lot of my learning packages and children's books out. Like I actually went and delivered art copies to schools. And then because like they would be like, hey, they would tag another school, and then they would ask for an art copy, and then they would post about social media for me. Whereas Twitter, if I have like a free sale on a book through KDP or something, or a new book, I can have people that I know on there who is like my little indie author group I talk to share it for me and kind of spread it that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. The you kept away from the traditional route. Why did you keep away from the traditional route?
Well, at first, like I said, I wasn't sure really what it would include, and I was a little too eager to get my book out there, which I'm sure there's a lot of other authors who probably feel like they're in the same boat. And I actually did try to get traditionally published for my one book anywhere else, and I got 3 offers, but I kind of pulled out because they didn't seem to benefit me in the same way that self-publishing was going to,
Yeah.
where it wasn't as much of a return as if I were doing self-publishing.
Yeah. It's not like they're giving you 100 grand for reading the book or anything.
Right.
Of writing the book, yeah.
Yeah.
So you editing, do you have it professionally edited by just a contact of yours?
So the first time, well, besides when I did my first book with Create Space, which I did had professional editing with that package, my next one was like the Backup Superhero, which is I had pretty much a very like consistent group of like beta readers and alpha readers that I had go through the book like continuously for me and find mistakes.
Yeah.
And then I actually found through a freelancing thing like Fiverr, it's called Upwork, and I found cheap editors through that. However, this was back like during COVID time, because I don't remember how much I paid for the Backup Superhero, but I know for anywhere else, which was about 60K in words, I paid $250 to have it edited.
Yeah.
And what I did was, because I'm like, well, I'm not paying a lot, and I want to make sure I'm still getting someone good, because I've heard people who have editing done for like $1,000, $2,000. So I asked, I offered to pay an extra $50 and asked who, like the 3 top, my 3 top picks, to do a sample of editing for the first 3 chapters for $50.
Yeah.
And they accepted, and I found a great person, and she did a great job. And she actually did one of my other superhero books as well for, I think, only $150.
Okay. So that's sort of, that's just like copy editing and proofreading almost, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than developmental editing.
Yeah. But like in my process, I usually have a group of like alpha readers who get like my first and second drafts, and then beta readers who go through the entire thing for me, just to let me know about continuity errors and development and stuff like that. And then I rely on someone I pay for the grammatical editing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the more professional sort of edit sort of thing. Yeah, I think sort of I used a writing group. I put a writing group together, so they're sort of checking each other's work effectively.
Yeah.
And I've got a few beta readers as well, but sometimes people become too close to you, and they
yeah,
that's the problem. I think you want to have some kind of distance between you and the beta readers.
Yes. Well, it's actually funny you say that. So my husband is my toughest one. He's like my last person to go through, and I know he's going to give me the toughest editing. He'll be like, "This is awful. You need to rewrite the whole thing." I was like,
isn't it? That's what you want, yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, that's what I want, and I know he's going to give me tough love. So I mean, and it ultimately makes it better. So I can't complain.
My brother's a beta reader of mine, and he read my latest novel, Time to Click.
Okay.
And he said he had to sort of catch himself halfway through the book, and he was like, "My brother's done this. This is really good." Like, actually, this is actually really good. So that was quite nice.
Yeah.
I think early on, perhaps, should I have had stuff edited? Perhaps I should, really, because going through the writing groups and that sort of stuff, you're getting some feedback,
right?
But it's professional feedback.
Right.
I've got a more professional proofreader that's looked at one of my new projects and given me some work back, giving me a little bit of corrections on that. But it's building up the connections, as you say, Kayla. It's you need that team, don't you? Because writers can be quite insular sometimes. Yes. And they're doing all the story themselves, or they're editing themselves. They're trying to do their own cover. They're trying to do their own marketing, trying to do their own promotion. And it's very rare that one person is great at everything.
Yeah.
isn't it? And
Yeah.
I'm no different. The marketing and adverts and that sort of stuff, that's quite a difficult area to negotiate as well, isn't it?
Yes, I actually haven't really done too much with ads, advertisements, or anything. I actually got a book to try to learn how to do it myself because it is extremely difficult, and I didn't want to keep pouring money into something that wasn't going to be successful.
Yeah,
I mean, I found that, I mean, I make a lot of, I would say, marketing posts for social media, which, at this point of how many books I have out and as big as my audience has become, I have regular like book reviewers that come and I can offer a book to, and they'll leave me a review. So that helps a lot. And also as its own marketing in a way. And I know other authors who have been very successful with ads on Amazon and everything, but I would also encourage a lot of authors to start building relationships now with
yeah,
bloggers and reviewers of books, TikTokers, like whatever is your medium, find them there and follow them now and build a rapport with them before asking them to review your book.
yeah, yeah. I think I've sort of not got into that side of it enough, really. I did put a few ads on for Amazon, and that wasn't really successful, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. You always wonder whether is my blurb not good enough? Is it the book cover? People
Right.
say they love me book covers, but nobody's ever told me they love the blurb. So maybe it's the blurb that's the
I feel like when you make your blurbs and everything, like especially just for your books page on the platform like Amazon or whatever, it I found myself making tweaks sometimes 3 times when I look at it
oh
because
I've done lots of them, yeah.
right, I mean just, putting in the right hook, the right suspense, the right making them want to know more,
Yeah.
or putting a quote in there, just something. And also a lot of people don't take advantage of the A+ content feature on Amazon, where you can kind of put images and give a little more about the book. And I found that once I did that, my books looked way more professional, and I looked more like a streamlined author than I feel like I ever did.
Yeah, got you. Got you. The what would you say is your biggest challenge at the moment?
Still marketing. uh I feel like that's always going to be a challenge because the market is always changing, and where your target audience is always changing, and what they're interested in. Even if they're interested in your genre, what the most trending thing with them is always going to change. They might still like fantasy, but maybe they like something you didn't think of with fantasy, and you now have to figure out how to pull them into what you've written.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I think genre was a challenge for me, really, because when I first sort of set to writing my first book, I didn't think particularly about genre. I just
Right.
had the story in my head, and then when you're thinking, well, you need to pigeonhole this. Where is this? And I suppose in reality, the first one, Finding Love in 2045, as the title may suggest, it's a futuristic book, sort of romantic drama sort of thing. So that would go into sci-fi,
Right.
but quite often people think of sci-fi as sort of space and that
Right.
sort of thing. But it's not really a romance. It's not a typical romance kind of book. It's more of a drama, romantic relationship drama.
Right.
So it's sort of where to pigeon that, really. I think if you're just putting it into general fiction or
Yeah.
sci-fi general, it's not really sort of leaping it out. And but I think that was my mistake for just getting up the writing, and I wasn't thinking about where it was going to sell, who was going to buy it. I was just thinking about, this is my
Right.
story. I want to write my story.
And I feel like other authors that find themselves in that position, because I know I was in that position when I wrote my first book, a great way to kind of give your audience a feel, if you can't really narrow it down, is give them comps when you're doing your marketing.
Give
Like
them,
if comparison. So if you like
yeah,
these
I got you.
books,
Okay.
yeah, you're going to like my book. And I think that simply will give them a great idea. If they're like, I'm not really sure where this falls, you can say, well, if you read this, this, and this will kind of give you an idea of what my book's about.
Yeah. So I I think with me to probably be 2 or 3 books. I think.
Yeah.
The series. I'm not sure whether you had it in America. Humans. It was a
Yes.
series about robots and that sort of stuff. Very lifelike robots. So I
Mhm.
suppose it's sort of partly connected to that sort of
Okay.
thing. That's one I've sort of compared it to.
Okay.
Covers. Let me just. So, what would you think? What
I
would you
like
think?
that.
I quite like it as well. The it is the forerunner. It was the forerunner to the Finding Love in 2045. So I effectively the story I had in my head was too big for one book. It was going to be sort of like about 120,000 words sort of thing. So I split it down for 2, so it follows off into Awoken.
Okay.
But then I'd done a previous story, short story competition,
Oh,
a
wow.
twisted short story competition, and that had an excellent response. I was sort of one of the finalists for that.
Wow.
And the so then I took the character from that and thought about the character that's in Finding Love in 2045. So then I sort of changed things around a little bit. So it was the main love interest for Finding Love in 2045 for Mia. Her main love interest, that's his backstory. It's
Okay.
time to click. So, but again, it's hard to pigeon that exactly where it is because
Exactly.
it's an adventure story, as there is an element of sci-fi, but
Mhm.
again, it's a relationship dramas, sort of.
Right.
So going forward, I think, as you quite rightly say, you've got to know what genre you're writing for,
Yeah.
and I'll put into that now. But those 3 I've put aside now,
Right.
and they can still take off and make it to the film. Of course, that'd be nice. You mentioned your first book took 4 years. What's your writing process now? How long would it take you to do your first draft, for example?
Oh, I guess it would depend on what genre I'm writing in and the topic because Kale Stone took me 4 years, but it was also my first book. So I was kind of learning as I went. And then my book Anywhere Else is 60K, and that's a contemporary romance. And that I wrote that in 1 month. And then I'm
First
working
draft
on,
in 1 month, yeah.
yeah, I wrote it 1 month. And then I'm working on like a zombie escape room type of idea, but it
Okay.
would be like these influencers go to like in a zombie escape room, but it's like on a citywide scale amusement park type thing. So this is a new genre for me to try, and so far I've been working on it for probably 6 months. So I feel like it just depends on the genre and the story that I'm writing and how fast it goes.
Do you think when you're writing across different genres that you should use pen names, or you just got them all under Kayla?
I just put them all under me.
Yeah.
I thought about that, but then I said, I don't know. I just feel like when I started writing, I felt bored sticking to one genre. And I know that's probably not like the path. And people are like, that's not the path to success. Like, you're never going to build like your greatest audience that way. But I felt that if I didn't keep trying to keep myself interested, that my writing was going to become boring because it was going to show.
Yeah. So I think that there's some of the successful writers, they're very formulaic, aren't they? And every story, it's like I've read this before, and that's frustrating for me. I think every story I read, I want to hear a new story. I don't want the same
Right.
same sort of detective. There's a problem in New York and that sort of, and it's all the same. It's all the same game, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I want something that's going to sort of grab me. And like with my writing, I want to equally have people not expecting, not
Exactly.
particularly know what to expect from me. Procrastination, is that a challenge for you, or with a young child, do you don't have time for any of that?
I try not to procrastinate. I will find if I have like writer's block that reading books will help me open up, or playing a video game, watch TV, getting outside, that kind of thing. But I feel like if I ever have a procrastination, it's because I'm stuck somewhere and I have to make myself unstuck.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with the time that I have to write, I try to make the most of it. Because like I make a schedule for myself. So like one day I'll work on marketing, and that's all I do for my time that day. And I'll schedule like my posts on Twitter with a scheduling app ahead of time. So all I have to focus on is commenting and replying. And then other days of the week, I'll focus on trying to make it to like this goal in my mind of how many words I want to write in that day.
Yeah.
So it depends on the day and what's happening.
Yeah, I think social media and YouTube is my sort of bane, really. I sort of that pulls me.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you sort of cope with things when you've got lots of things on your to-do list. Do you prioritize writing and push those aside, or have you got? From my point of view, I need to clear my to-do list to get my head clear to be able to focus on what I'm doing to write.
I feel like yes and no. I mean, I guess it would depend what was on there. Like I know I have a newsletter that goes out every Friday. So I try to spotlight other indie authors and I'll put them at the end so that people can, hopefully my audience will be interested in something there. So a lot of my Monday goes into like finding other indie authors to put in my newsletters each week, making my newsletter and doing my marketing. And I feel like once I've kind of complete all of that, I feel free the rest of the week to kind of do what I want to do.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of juggling a lot of things, I think is my problem. If it was just writing only that I was looking at, then I'd probably do much better. But I've sort of got sort of like a completely different wild world of different things going on. So I think when I sit down, I try to my focus at the moment, because I'm writing a story at the moment, is when I sit down, I'm going to write a chapter. So if I can get a chapter every time I sit down to write, then and I'm up to chapter 12 now, so that's moving along. Do you sort of have a plot line? Do you sort of plot all what you're going to write, or a Stephen King seat of your pants?
I feel like it depends on the book. Like with doing this new zombie book that I've been working on, I really did outline it, because it's something I've never done before. But somewhere like anywhere else with the Backup Superheroes series, I haven't really planned anything out. Now I probably will for the Backup Superhero series, because I think I'll be on the 5th book by then, and I have to kind of keep a timeline so that I don't mess anything up. So outlines then in series come in very much handy.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I think initially I was a bit of a pantser, and now sort of the more you write, the more you want to start plotting for timelines and sort of and efficiency, really. But it's, as you say, it's a balance. For this one I'm writing now, this the Healer is the sort of the working title sort of thing.
Okay.
I had it sort of plotted out, but as I'm writing the story, I'm starting to kick out bits of the plot, and it's starting to change as my characters are taking over the story. Yeah, something happened they weren't happy with, and then it's all gone a different direction. So, so that's difficult. So, where do you see yourself next 12 months then? Any goals that you set for yourself?
I guess it would be, my goals would be to get better at doing more author geared events to try to move some books. I have been invited to a few libraries in my area where they actually do indie author days, where they let us sell our books there and sign. I didn't even know I had fans, but I had fans and they came, and that was cool. It was neat. So I think doing more events like that where I can meet people in person and make connections to other authors in my area. I actually met another children's book author, and she does stuff on plants and stuff in her books. And she said that she actually searched out a lot of festivals in our area and she's traveled to like Maryland and all this stuff to do festivals like apple orchards and stuff like that. And she said she sold out because people weren't expecting like an author to be there, and it was like a bonus. So hearing that, it encourages me to try and make it a goal for myself to make it an in-person appearance at more events around my area or more libraries or bookstores, because I feel like if more people in my community knew me, that would just also enhance my audience than just social media.
Yeah, it's sort of physically getting out there. I did one library event, one library launch event, and but things conspired against me. I think it was following a coffee morning that they're having at the library. I thought, oh, that's good. That's going to bring people in. But there was a storm, and nobody came to the coffee morning. And then I had about 5 people turn up, and a couple of hours were just there because they wanted to get out the rain, I think. I did have a more fruitful visit to a book club, and that was good. But that was sort of just coming out of COVID, so the attendance wasn't great there. I think they had 70 members, but I think there was only 6 or 7 that were there on the night.
Oh no!
So I've had some challenges, but I think definitely going libraries. When I did the launch at the library, a friend of mine who's a bit of a marketing genius, really, he said people don't buy books that go to libraries; they lend books.
Yeah.
And he said you want to go to like somewhere where people actually buy books rather than where they just lend the books. And he's got a point. But I mean, from a lot of the people I've been talking to through the channel, libraries are a common thing.
Right.
I think we would all like to be selling more books.
Right.
But we want people to read our books.
Well, and I feel like it's hard for a lot of libraries to take chances on indie authors because it is very difficult to get into the Library of Congress. I've had a very hard time here in the US doing that. And so pretty much I have to find libraries that are willing to support indie authors and hope that my stuff's good enough to put in the library. Yeah. And I found one, and I got into the Lancaster Public Library System, which was like a huge win. But we have over, I don't know if you guys have that there, but over here, a lot of people will put free little libraries in their yards. And it's like a box with like a glass window, and you can open up, and it's take a book, leave a book. And
yeah, we've got those, yeah.
Yeah, so I will often take my books and I'll like wrap it up and do like a date with a book, or I'll put like little bookmarks and stuff in there, like a little goodies, and I'll leave them in there and post on social media and say where it is, and usually someone has contacted me that they haven't gotten it.
That's good. That's good. Kayla, I think we should have you on again at some point. It's been marvelous talking to you. I think we've run out of time a little bit, but I'm engroused really. I think we have plenty more to talk about, so I think we'll get you back on the show. It's been great having you on. You have been a superb guest, and yes, definitely have you back. Right then, so thank you very much. The Budding Author Podcast, if you haven't already, like, comment and subscribe, and follow all these wonderful authors and all these wonderful tips. Thanks for watching. Cheers.